Welcome back to another episode of the Friday Reporter podcast. I think 2026's overall theme is going to be about people that are rewriting playbooks and how everything in Washington is changing. And I think a lot of it is in a good way. Today's conversation is with Jess Beeson Tocco. She's the president of Shepherd Strategies, which is a relatively new firm, but only after for 10 years she was the president, founder, owner of A10 Strategies, which was a women-owned lobbying firm. She's going to talk to me about this new model that Shepherd Strategies is, and I can't wait for you to hear it. I think it's brilliant. I'm excited about her as a conversation for today. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. I'm so excited to have you here, Jess, today. Thank you for making the time to chat.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here and love your show, love listening, and honored to be a part of it.
You have what's so funny to me, here's the typical Washington tale for our guest, that is for our audience that is listening today. We have literally intersected over the course of our careers and never met until like a couple of months ago when we finally got on the phone to chat about this and your career. And it's crazy because I've been admiring you and knowing who you are for all of these years. You built an amazing lobbying business, women-owned business with A10, and now you've got a new venture. I want you to walk me through A10 and the process of how that came together, what it was, and then what this new pivot is to your new business with Shepherd Strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. So A10 Associates was the largest women-owned lobbying firm in the U.S. We did state, federal, and local lobbying. Our mission was to help businesses grow in the U.S. and do that by finding money in government. And so at our height, we had almost 40 employees. We were in 38 states and federal work as well. And we just did transportation technology infrastructure. It was an incredible journey being bipartisan. And we did that by focusing just on policy and not politics, but also focusing on results for clients. And I think that's a key topic for today is serving your clients with results in the government affairs business, whether you be a politician, an elected official, a staffer for an official, a lobbyist, a PR firm. Delivering results is and will continue to be my focus. This year, when the president won, our business quadrupled almost overnight. And it's like that saying, be careful what you wish for, because our mantra was always white glove service, C-suite focused only. Be kind, tell the truth, do your best. My people were saying that in their sleep. It was painted all over the walls. And literally in every office at all times. And if we didn't know what to do, and we say this with Shepherd too, be kind, tell the truth, do your best. And those are all wonderful, important things that we've transitioned into the Shepherd space. But what I found with this president and with the industry as a whole is that the market is shifting. And I came up through lobbying. It is cool because you and I knew each other but didn't know each other.
That's
and
right.
I admire everything you've done. And we were in D.C. in the Bush administration days. And back then, before that economic crisis in the 2000s, people had lobbying firms and PR firms just like accountants or lawyers. It was just what you did. And there was one pie of businesses that had lobbyists, and they just kind of changed around the same lobbying firms. And I think that the lobbying industry took for granted the clients, and I think the clients took for granted the lobbyists. And so when our model came in around 2017, and we really focused on delivering results, which included helping find money in government, getting loans, grants, tax credits from government, getting executive approvals, executive orders. We were a very different type of firm because most lobbying firms have always relied on having a lot of meetings and maybe getting an appropriation. And most lobbying firms operate on a structure where they renew their contracts every year. And the longer they can draw out a project, the more money they make. So our model at A10 and continuing into Shepherd really shocked the market because we were always a 30-day out. We were always, let's finish the job and get the project done. And that's a very different model. And so, but what I found with the Trump administration is that whenever you get a new president, not just President Trump, everyone wants to have meetings, 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 meetings. And I found that where my business was growing the most was new clients that just wanted to go and have meetings with the president or the White House or folks on the Hill. And at the size and the level that I was at, I served on the transition team for different cabinet agencies. I was seeing this huge schism in the industry between what customers wanted, which was to have a lot of meetings and talk about big ideas, and what customers needed, which was to actually get a result. And so by the summer of 2025, I really felt that my vision and the industry were at odds.
Interesting.
Because
Yeah.
my vision wasn't to just go have lots of meetings. It was to get stuff done.
I love it. This is what prompted you to say, I'm going to sunset the business at A10 and really get focused in this new business at Shepherd Strategies. Is that right?
That's right. And so what I did was I sunset A10 July 1st. And then I wanted to take care of the clients and the employees because they were who got me where I was, as well as the elected officials that we worked with at all levels, all parties. So I closed my business for all the clients that were really looking for traditional lobbying, so meetings and relationships. I really I referred all of those out to lobbying firms in DC. I helped them find the right fit. I also didn't obviously need dozens of employees, but my employees were the ones that got me there. We had a mentorship and a leadership program, and the majority of our employees were young women. So I helped them match with the companies that were taking on the book of business. And so I structured the buyout of the book in a way that I wasn't getting immediate money for myself, but it allowed my employees to work there and have a shot. So I was really proud because several of my employees are partners now at big lobbying firms. And then I really scaled down to just taking work that's related to creating U.S. jobs and finding money in government, state and federal government.
What would you say for people like yourself and for me? I think leading in this industry as a female is a well, it's a point of pride, right? What would you say, though, doesn't get said publicly about running a high-profile women firm?
You are never treated the same way as a man. So you can feel bad about that, or you can capitalize on that. And so
Love it.
I would advise every woman to capitalize on the things that make us different, and I would say better. So I can tell you, even last week, I fired a client, and it was a great choice. The client deserved to be fired. They did something wrong. But that being said, me doing it as a woman, I'm sure was taken differently than if I was a man. Because if a woman is too strong, we're a beep beep. If a woman is too sweet, we're a pushover. If we're in the middle, we're boring. So there's really no way to be. And so what I advise women and the women that work for me is be yourself, be true to yourself, be kind, tell the truth, do your best. It sounds silly, but it works. It's easy to remember. And so what I always try to do is measure the decisions I make against that. And what I had to do, I'm 42 now, was get comfortable in my own skin. So I had to stop caring that this man thinks I'm a cute little blonde. This man thinks I'm just a mom. This man thinks I'm a beep beep. I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to be comfortable in my decisions. And once I got comfortable with myself, I became so powerful. And what I realized about myself was being a woman makes me really good at my job because I have a level of empathy that my male competitors don't. I care. I'm very detail oriented. I'm able to multitask. But I've also learned that it has given me different limitations. So where I do have limitations, because there are some clients that just will not take you seriously if you're a woman, or they will just listen to a man instead of a woman. When I have that limitation, I actually learned this from a book I read from Jack Welch. I just focus on my strengths and not my weaknesses. So if I've got a client that, the woman issue is there, spoken or not, that I can't tackle it, I just move on. I just get a new client.
Good.
If there's a problem that I can feel that it's, either they're threatened by a powerful woman or they're just not going to take me seriously, I just move on. And so I always laugh. I laugh because in the decisions I make now, I'll say to my friends, you know what? 4 years ago, I would have let that person walk all over me and cried alone. 2 years ago, I would have cussed that guy out and told him where to go because I was finding my voice. But now I'm able to calmly tell the person where the door is and stand up for myself. And I would also advise women, having coached women, we actually had a program that we did, like a coffee and learns for all of our employees every Thursday and our clients, where we had a real curriculum for women. Um, One thing I've learned about women is we're so conditioned to be communal and everyone work together and everybody be a team. And
Mhm.
then when we start to find our voice, it's very jarring. It's like we're running away from home. And so I see a lot of women do what I did first stage, which is blow up, get angry, whatever. And it feels like this huge oscillation. What I've seen with women is they're finding their voice and they need to hit that middle ground. But as a woman, you need to give yourself some grace and let yourself find that voice.
Let me fast forward for you 10 years and look at me. And I will tell you this, it just keeps getting better. It does. I mean, it's and good for you because I mean, even in my 40s, we are in, there are so many dynamic and fantastic women that are in our business, but I still look and I look at my male counterparts and the rules are just different. They're different for both sides. But I love that you say you either focus on your strengths and set aside your weaknesses. Yes, all of that. Yes. Okay, that's what the rules are. So we're just going to do that. I love that so much. But so you're a girl boss and I dig that so much, but you're killing it in this business. And so I want to unpack a little bit of what it is that this funding strategy for Shepherd Strategies is, because I want to understand what do clients misunderstand about how federal and state funding really works?
Yes, I love that. So a lot of misunderstanding comes from the fact that until President Obama in 2011, we had earmarks.
Mm.
And all lobbying firms did essentially was fill out worksheets for their state representatives in the Senate and the House to do appropriations. And President Obama banned that. President Clinton was actually the last president to balance the budget. We gave Bush some grace because of the war on terror. And then Obama actually wanted to balance the budget. So he thought if we got rid of earmarks, that would fix it.
Mm.
The problem is that the lobbying industry, although that was 15 years ago, hasn't caught up. And so Obama did that. People were kind of like, yeah, whatever. Then we had Trump and immediately went into COVID. So agencies were just letting money, as you recall, even under a Republican president, because we had the issues with COVID and we had to basically save our economy. Then I think well meant President Biden came in. He did the same thing. He just started letting money Inflation Reduction Act, and trying to rebuild infrastructure because there was a real panic about the economy, job creation, cash on the streets. And so the government was just letting money. And nobody stopped to think about the fact that when you have less earmarks, you have less legislation. So statistically, before earmarks, you would sign about 4,000 laws every year. Now we're signing about 400. And if you look statistically at executive orders, you've got like 100% more than you had in the past. If you look at regulations, you have 10 times more. And that's because whoever is giving out the money is making the rules. So now you have agencies at the federal level dispersing money. And with that, they're giving regulation, which makes sense. When that happens, the money tends to go two ways. It can go to the states. So if you looked at any program like COVID, EV funding, now with this president, it's a lot on the grid and speed to power initiative and energy dominance. States all get certain buckets of money. And once the state gets that money, they can give it in the form of grants or sales or loans or tax credits to their local governments or to businesses or nonprofits as they see fit. But also now, agencies have federal money, and the government's the largest purchaser of goods and services. But also, they give grants, loans, tax credits to private businesses. So the problem is there are still lobbyists to this day, and I'm going to say men, I've not heard women do it, but there are still lobbyists to this day trying to sell their clients a long appropriation strategy to get something appropriated that then can't be named for their business like it could 2011. And if that is appropriated in the budget, you don't know that your company is going to get it. You still have to apply.
How about that?
So what I basically did, and I learned this idea from business school, was, and what I still do, and what we should all do is operate in the realm of possible. You can find a government program for almost anything. So instead of going back to the appropriations project and starting over, looking at what is being funded and applying for that. And that's really the name of the game. And then to do that, that's where I think lobbyists fall short because a lot of lobbyists don't have, an MBA or business experience. A lot of lobbyists are just worked in government. They have some contacts. But the federal government provides data. You can get special websites, or you could just go on GovSpend USA. And you can see where programs are spending on what they're buying, who the program managers are, and what they're interested in. So just like being a realtor, if I told my real estate agent I need a 5-bedroom house in this area, you can do that for your client. You can look and see, all right, these are the agencies that are funding quantum computing. This is how they're doing it. These contracts are up and need to be rebid. All that's public data. And so what we're doing is essentially marrying the analysis of public data, which is not a strong suit of most lobbyists, with our relationships. And if you can marry the two, if you're just looking at data and you're just applying into a black hole, that's not going to work. But if you're running around on the Hill and agencies, even if you see the president and you say, I really want to do X, if you don't fill out the paperwork and there's not money for it, it doesn't work. And so we're marrying the two. And what we are really doing that I think is very successful is we're looking at that at the state, federal, local level. A lot of businesses now are scrambling for cash or credibility to their investors. So it's a lot faster to get a contract or apply at state or local government. It takes a lot more time at the federal level. So if a business needs a quick win, we're looking at that local level while we take that cycle on the federal level. And that allows businesses to succeed, get some wind behind their back, feel good about us, and then move forward.
Jess, this is brilliant. And it tracks so closely to everything else I've been talking to people about in Washington, is that the playbook on every level is not the same. And so every firm that's trying to use an old playbook for a time when there were earmarks or the appropriations process was what it once was, they're trying to apply that to the new order. It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
This is so smart. Good for you. And you're going to, honestly, you're a trendsetter though. I mean, well, plenty of other firms will stay the same and they'll do the same thing because that's the safe thing to do. But this is so smart. I'm so proud of you. Holy, this is amazing. What kinds of where are your clients? Are they all across the country?
Yeah. So we're really focused right now on companies that have private equity investment that are trying to grow their value.
I see.
So our majority of our focus is in the technology space for energy infrastructure.
Yeah, smart.
And those are really important companies. I've got a company I'm working with, for example, that needed tariff relief. And it was so that they could bring their manufacturing supplies to the US to manufacture in the US. And so they weren't trying to bring in a widget, but what they need to make the widget in the US. So getting that tariff relief for them is huge. Now that they can bring that into the United States, they're eligible for different types of federal funding, economic development funding. For example, if you open a factory in the US, all 50 states have different programs that they'll do if you're bringing more jobs to their state. And then within the state now, cities, towns, counties also have programs, even regions have programs. And so what we do is we put out an RFP and we let states bid on bringing those manufacturing or those offices or those service centers there. So that's a really big part of what we're doing because states are trying to attract jobs and talent. And then once we do that, then layering on R&D funding at the federal level, any type of funding for economic development, job creation, and that's really where it's been at. Also, advanced technology. So the government's really looking into advanced manufacturing, anything related to energy dominance, strengthening the grid, quantum computing, AI. So, and I will say. There was a lot of rhetoric around Doge and the federal government stopping programs. And they did stop some programs. But for the most part, they just changed the name and where they're spending. And so I think it was really jarring for everyone when, on both sides of the aisle, when the One Big Beautiful Bill passed in July. But now, 9 months later, 6 to 9 months later, all of the actual regulation is out and the guidelines. And yes, we did lose some tax credits that were important to industries. There's no way to sugarcoat that. But the actual programs and funding, even things like the National Electric Vehicles infrastructure, they're still being funded. They're just different. And so it's about learning the new rules. And if you can do that and be nimble, you can get the funding.
Well, and it speaks to the approach that you're taking with this new model too. How do you counsel? What would you say one thing you wish clients understood before they hired a firm for counsel, for influence, for lobbying?
The time that it takes in a lot of different ways. I always tell people it doesn't really matter how much you pay me. If you don't invest your time in me, it's not going to work. And so, on the one hand, the job of a lobbyist or a consultant is to save the client time. But the more they give, the more they get. And so, if a client is responsive, provides data, listens, takes our advice, that goes so much further than the retainer they pay me. And I've started really drilling down on that. The number one reason I terminate clients, and I'm more of a client terminator than a get terminated type of girl, is
Good for
because they
you.
don't listen. And for me, that means that I can't achieve what I need. And if I know I can't achieve what I need, I don't feel right taking the client's money. So the number one thing is that they need to put in their time. The second thing about time is that it takes time. So the biggest struggle I have is that my business model has always had household name businesses, but I get really excited about startups, small to medium sized enterprises,
Mhm.
people that haven't had a lobbyist before.
Mhm.
And that's really good because I get to paint the canvas. They don't have preconceived notions. And when I was a new business a decade ago, that was the only business I was going to get because I was a new business.
Right.
But the bad part about it is the private sector operates so much different.
Mhm.
And so it is mind blowing sometimes for a private business person to hear how slow government is.
Yes.
And they have to be ready for that. And so I always say they have to be willing to give time, and there has to be trust in the relationship. So we try to put in as many measures as possible to show transparency, like reports, including clients in meetings, including them on emails, so that we can be transparent. But ultimately, there has to be that trust in us, and trust in the process, that some things in government, a lot of things in government, do not happen overnight.
Mm-mm.
And so managing that expectation.
I mean, that's incredibly important. And I think that it surprises clients, especially not only in lobbying, but even in communications. It can't just be turned on. The value in hiring someone like you, Jess, is that you have this tremendous long list of people that know you as a trusted advisor that you will then introduce your clients to. But it takes a little time to get those meetings on the books and those conversations to start and that trust again to be built up on behalf of the client. So I think that that's great counsel, right? That the time is longer than you expect it to be. But I think transparency is probably the very best way to do it. I love hearing that that's what you do because I think the more the client understands what is happening, the better and more informed they are as the process unfolds.
That's right.
Would you say, I can't believe it, we're almost to the end of 30 minutes. You're going to have to come back for another conversation, Jess. That's the end of that. I mean, this is so exciting. I'm thrilled about this business. I will make sure that there is a link to Shepherd Strategies so folks know how to find you. But I'm curious, is there a particular lesson in your takeaway, whether it be for women-owned business entrepreneurs, you name it. Is there a piece of advice that you give people when they consider building something like you have built?
Yes, I could give a lot of advice. But I would just say, whether you're a man or woman, what age you are, you have to know what you prioritize, and you have to focus that every day. So my priority is my family. Um, not because I'm a woman, because I'm a parent and I'm a daughter and I'm a sister. And every time that I've let that priority get out of balance, everything else falls apart.
Mhm.
So if you're going into this, maybe your priority is, something else, that's fine, but you've got to focus on it, and you've got to know that priority, and you've got to be honest with yourself. Because if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, you're going to be a ping pong ball.
Mhm.
And that, I can honestly say, is where I made the mistake, that my business got too big, because I said, I'm not going to do any better or worse for my family if my business is huge or my business is the size of Shepherd. Maybe it helps my ego, but it doesn't do anything different for my children. Then I have less time with them.
Mhm.
And so I would just really encourage people, some people don't have kids yet, or maybe they had a traumatic experience where they're not looking to focus on their family and it's a different priority. But if it's your health, if it's becoming smarter, if it's just cold hard cash, whatever it is, know your priority, refresh that, think about that, keep that in view, because every day as an entrepreneur, you think you're going to get 3 things done, and then like 75 other things happen, and it's like a dumpster fire. And if you can just focus on, like, what is my mission in life with this business, you're going to have a lot more clarity. And once I got that, ultimately, I'm probably more successful now than I ever was at a 10, because I learned how to follow my priority. But I screwed up a lot first. So don't do that.
That's such good advice. I mean, that I think is, I'm taking it. I mean, it is because it is really, I think, good counsel. Whatever your priority is, keep it in focus because I think everything else aligns when you know what it is you want. Jess Tocco, this was the most fun conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited about Shepherd Strategies and everything you're doing. Please come back and talk to me again.
You will. And anything we can do for you, let us know. We're going to send you a fun shirt.
I love it. I'm going to wear it. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Good to see you, honey.
Well, thanks for joining me. That was super fun. I'm looking forward to a really busy and exciting 2026. Big thanks to my production team at Two River Pictures. And another really important thanks to my friends at Be the Brand Collective who helped me with marketing and making sure the word gets out about the show. I'll see you again for another episode. Thanks so much.